Hello, mic check 1 2 1 2. Welcome in to the Keep It 100 podcast. I'm your host, Casey Huckle. I want to thank you for tuning in. And in this introduction, I'd like to obviously tell you what Keep It 100 is all about. So there are many lines, quotes, sayings, expressions, idioms, adages, truisms, pieces of advice, etc. that I live by and have much gratitude for. And that's what gave birth to this podcast, Keep It 100. I want to celebrate these lines for giving me more perspective on life. Maybe you're thinking, why am I calling this podcast Keep It 100? Well, it comes down to math. For the next year, I'll drop 2 episodes per week, focusing on one quote per episode to celebrate, where I'll dive into its history, including whom it's credited to, who popularized the line if that's necessary, and the context surrounding the quote if that's available. And lastly, I'll explain what it means to me. So you might be wondering what about the math. Well, 2 episodes a week for a year leaves 104 episodes. But just like you, I need 2 weeks of vacation. So for the next year, I'm keeping it 100 for y'all. These lines could be from a song, a speech, a poem, the Bible, maybe even from me. So without further ado, let's begin. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, I know you're wondering, what the hell does that mean? Maybe you haven't heard that before. I'd only heard it a few times in my life. But I wanted to speak about it on Keep It 100 because it is really important to me in terms of keeping things into perspective. Like a lot of the lines, the greatest ones are, and the ones that I'd like to cover are. You might have heard it from Jay-Z. He's big on expressions, and so he had mentioned it in his song Holy Grail. Take the good with the bad, or throw the baby out with the bathwater. And it's derived from a 1512 German work by Thomas Murner called Nahen Bascherung. Forgive me if that is not pronounced correctly. I don't speak German. Nahen Bascherung, meaning appeal to fools. And Thomas Murner. There isn't much on like the backstory of the context of the story, and fortunately I can't read German, or I would be able to read that work, Nachen Bascherung, and the proverb is actually Das Kind mit dem Bade ausschütten, to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and word for word I find it interesting. Das Kind mit dem Bade ausschütten, the child with the bath pour out. So it's not quite word for word correct, but grammatically, apparently, I don't know much about German. Grammatically, German is different than English, even though English is Germanic. But a lot of cognates there. But English writers borrowed it in the 19th century. And like I was saying, there isn't much. I haven't heard it. It's not like the most practical, or it's practical but not most common heard expression. But with Jay-Z, for example, he was complaining about how fickle fame can be, and how his reception as a celebrity is extremely mixed. He loves it, but he hates it. And he mentioned, as he says he's talking about in Holy Grail, from Magna Carta, Holy Grail, his album that came out in 2013. But for me, it means to not quite go to all or nothing. To me, I'm always worried about my all or nothing thinking, and so if you were to, with the baby and the water, I'll explain what it means first, and then I'll explain how it applies to my life and life, hopefully for you too. the idea is that the whole family bathes in, we get in the bathtub. In this case, it's a basket, according to this illustration, and we fill it up with river water, and then we bathe in it. And it started out with the men first, and then the women, and the children. So the child was last, and the order doesn't matter, I guess, that much. All that matters is that the baby was it's the smallest, and so with the mom in the illustration, it has the mom throwing out both the water and the baby, showing it, which seems impossible, but just adds its mystique. So apparently you don't want to throw a baby out. You want to throw out the bad water that that the baby was cleaning in, and then like drain the tub, right? And you don't want the baby to go with it. So the baby in Jay-Z's case is, there's a lot of good that comes with his profession and his life, but there's a lot of bad too, and that's what he's saying, is he doesn't want to give up rap or become unfamous, which is probably impossible at this point, just because he has problems with paparazzi or these critics who criticize pretty much anything he does. And in preparation for this episode, I wanted to go into how that the best example of kind of a mistake I made was that when I'd moved out to LA to pursue film 2013, and then in 2014 I had just moved into a new apartment in Santa Monica with a stranger who was my age and who I liked at first. But then I got fired from a job, just a part-time job I had. It was only paying $10 an hour, and I was only there for 6 weeks, and then I was let go, and a crisis ensued. And so instead of, I'd say maybe, the baby was everything I had in LA, all the good that came with living out there, and there was a reason why I moved out there. I had a lot of things I was pursuing, but instead of kind of being grateful for that, I threw out both the baby and the bathwater. And instead of maybe, my roommate wasn't very warm or caring about my plight, so that made me even angrier. And I could have just moved to another place, although it might have taken time because I was stuck in rent. I could have figured out other things to do, but instead I moved all the way back to New Jersey. And that would be an extreme all or nothing kind of decision, because the baby was still there. I was blind to it. The baby was the that lifestyle, everything I had created by being out there for almost a year. So I gave up everything, and what was I left with? Nothing. So word to the wise: try to take the good with the bad, use your perspective, and your life will be much better. I know it's easier said than done, but that's my 2 cents. All right, take care. Wait. Before you go, first I want to thank you for listening to Keep It 100. It's been a pleasure. Second, I wanted to beg you to rate and review Keep It 100 on iTunes and or Apple Podcasts. And you know what? You don't even have to say much. You can say whatever you want. You can give it 1 star if you'd like. I just need, like everyone else, attention. So that's all. Keeping it 100 with you. Again, I'm your host, Casey Huckle, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. Cheers.